I believe we are live, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cornelius. All right, with that, I'm going to call this Tuesday, October 24th meeting of the Intergovernmental Legislative Relations Committee meeting to order. We do have a quorum present, and hopefully we'll have our other two members joining us soon. We do have one agenda item today, and that is the City of Albuquerque's 2024 State Legislative Priorities Resolution. And I know we just received kind of a updated version in email. Hopefully everyone received that. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Minicucci to talk us through what the changes were on that and anything else that we need to discuss on this today.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. And Madam Chair, Councilor O'Malley has joined. So we do have 5 on board.
Welcome. Thank you.
Or not Councilor O'Malley, Ms. O'Malley has joined. Sorry.
She answers to all of the titles because she's been them all.
In them all. And actually, Mr. Hertz, if you could bring up, or Jeff, you can bring up the latest one that was sent out. It would be working draft TF edits.
Yes, I'll bring it up right up.
Okay, and then we can get going. Okay, thank you, Jeff. So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, what this is the latest draft. It was actually just finished a few minutes ago, which is common for these meetings when we're doing the final look at the IGR is trying to do a final look at the metro, at the priorities list. What it does is a couple things. It adds 2 new projects on. 3 new projects. One that was added, 2 that were added by the administration late last week. The rail yards and Tijeras Biozone. And then 3rd that was added by Councilor Feeblecorn, the Girard Avenue project for a streetscape on that project, and also deleted off. That one replaced another project that was deleted off called the Honda Royal Improvements. The Honda Royal Improvements will transfer over to being a county project. So they will carry it forward. The city's going to do the initial planning for it, but then from there forward, it will go towards the county. It's my understanding. DMD will do that for raising money on it. With that said, the other issue that this one does, we'll go through it, was that I think Councilor Feeblecorn had some administrative changes that were to make it more readable to everyone. And I don't know, Councilor Feeblecorn, if you want me to go through them or if you want to go through it.
I'll just say quickly that I just asked to have all of the legislative priorities in one section and then all of the capital outlay requests in a separate section. Going back and forth between legislative and capital requests confused me. And so I thought it might be confusing to others, but I didn't do any changes to it, just separating those 2 things out to make it more clear. And I think what would make sense, Mr. Minicucci, is maybe just walk us through the entire document so that if anybody has any questions, comments, additions, edits, just, jump in as he goes through if that works for everyone. So go ahead, Mr. Minicucci.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, so the first group is the first category. It's broken in 2 categories, legislation and capital, as Councilor mentioned. The first one, of course, we start with the Metro Crime Initiative legislation, which seems to, because of the issues facing the city right now regarding the vis-a-vis its relationship with state legislature, are the highest priorities. So that one starts out with and it's what it does is we take, and there were like 52 priorities. What we did is we categorized them so that we didn't overwhelm legislators, and then we put the priorities that were kind of in a group. We put them as sub priorities to the priority. So we start out with bolstering New Mexico courts, then rebuilding the behavioral health system. And if you want to come on down, Jeff, then reduce gun violence. Strengthen public safety laws. And that one there. Then the next one we go to is public safety and behavioral health legislation. And again, this is done by, what do you call it? Many of these were provided by the counselors. Their legislation that's requested. It is done in alphabetical order, and it starts with fentanyl enhancing, gun control, law enforcement recruitment. There's one that we have in here that we originally put in because what we did is we put in everything that we had passed memorials and resolutions for, the council had. We put those also in, and there was one that was calling for a special session. But since that one was adopted and the governor said that she will not call for a special session, and that we are probably at a point in time where it would not be possible for her to call for a special session because of the way of having to set up a special session and then a full session. I think the recommendation was that to go to the committees that should that one be removed on that one. Go ahead.
And
Council.
Mr. Minicucci, I'll jump in and just say, I brought this one up, not making a decision for the committee, but just because this will not be translated or delivered to legislators until, right before the session starts. And so I didn't see a need to have it in here, but I'm open if other folks feel differently.
Madam Chair, I agree with that. By the time this gets published and is official, it's going to be long past due. So I'm completely comfortable moving forward without that in there.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Minicucci.
Okay, and then it continues on down. New Mexico handled the CARE Act, substance abuse sentencing, three strike sentencing for violent crimes. And we may have to make a change there to keep it alphabetical, pretrial detention and warrant enforcement funding. So that was that. Then we go down from that one. So that one, at that one, we then come into kind of citywide. So I should back up. The ordinance says for us to do, for us to do citywide, mayor and council. And so we still have, we how this goes is we have kind of the mayors up front, which is the mayors up front, which is MCI, and then we have kind of the council, and then we kind of have general citywide. So that's how this one's set up, the legislative one. But Steph, if you could stay there for a moment. And so the community improvements legislation, we didn't call it citywide. Only, I think as Councilor Feeblecoin pointed out, is that no matter whether a project's in a district or it's going to serve the whole city, it's something the whole city can access. So for instance, everyone will be able to access improvements to the Girard streetscape. And so basically, but really it's more the focus and the emphasis of the district. So we kind of just try to keep the citywide moniker off, so as not to confuse, and just kind of keep it into a general term, like such as community improvement legislation. This is ones again that mostly came from the council, affordable housing, City of Albuquerque County, Brennan Mill Grant Housing Collaborative. And then I think there was one that the councilor asked for a change entitled Legislative Action to Fight Climate Change, Improve Climate Resilience, and then designating the lowrider as the official state car and right to bear arms. And again, I would have to keep it alphabetical, we'll have to make a correction there to switch out designating the lowrider as the official state car and legislative action to fight climate change. And so that is that one. That is, I believe, wraps up the state legislative, the legislative priorities. We now go into the capital priorities. So capital priorities, again, we're done with mayor, crime initiative, community improvement, and then the mayor's specific ones that are non-crime initiative. And excuse me, the metro is not being called mayor. I think that's supposed to be called metro, seeing that as a real citywide. And then the mayoral specific requests, and then the district projects requests. And so we start with citywide capital. And again, these are ones that I think the administration pulled out of their general list to put into the citywide, to put into capital on that one. I do believe, Councilor Feeblecorn, you may have had a question on, I believe, the first one.
Yes. While I think we have some folks on there that might be able to answer this question for me. I'm just curious what the Albuquerque Community Safety Department apparatus is. What type of apparatus are we asking for funding for? I can't see everybody, but can anybody from the administration answer that?
Trying to unmute.
There we go.
Sure.
Can you hear me? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Kevin.
Matthew. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that they're asking for more apparatus that's similar to what APD or similar to what Metro Security has, if I'm correct on that one, just because to be more outfitted with things that they would need out in the field. Right, Kevin?
Yeah. Yes.
So basically, I mean, they're not armed, but there are certain things that they like to have that they can carry with them or on them. And so having more apparatus would help them better serve the community.
Thank you. Can you give me an example of what you mean by apparatus?
So those would be maybe like the belts that security officers wear, but different, that would have things they could use or apparatus they need when they're out in the field. It's a little bit different because they're not officers, so they're not going to have a gun belt or those kind of things. But if we needed to outfit them with cameras or things like that, just for their own safety and for the safety of others, those are the kind of things that we're looking into to more enhance the program.
And so would cameras be included in this request when we say acquire apparatus?
I won't say cameras are included in this, but those are the things we're headed towards if we need to have them.
So I'm sorry, Councilor Bassan, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I think you're onto something. I don't feel comfortable when we can't define what it is we're asking for to move forward with saying this is a priority. If we could get a list, that would be great, because if somebody were to come to us and say, what is what apparatus, like we can't define apparatus with saying apparatus. Is it tasers? Is it mace? Is it,
No.
Is it going to be, hand sanitizer? Like what is it going to include, and what are we going to try to outfit them with? And I am curious on another level, because we have had several, I know myself and another counselor at least, have had several members of ACS come forward asking for things. So for multiple reasons, I think it would be beneficial to learn about what apparatus we are trying to outfit them with.
And Councilor, I think we can get that list to you so you can see exactly what the priorities are and what we can be getting, so that we can all you guys can better understand exactly what it is we're getting, because I know apparatus is kind of a vague statement, but it encompasses a lot of things. So we can at least get you a list of what are priorities for the department.
Right, and much, Chair Fuglecorn, much like our offices all have defibrillators and oxygen tanks in every one of our offices now throughout the city. I do not believe Community Safety Department has any of that type of equipment in their cars, right? They're carrying Narcan for emergencies, but if they come upon someone that needs that they need a defibrillator for, we could be adding that kind of technology. And I know they're not meant to be paramedics and they're not medical responders, but much like we have defibrillators in the office and we have people in the office that are trained to use those, they could also be able to deploy those in the field in an emergency where there's no other choice. So we have some of those apparatus in our offices. We'd like to get some of those things into their vehicles as well, so that they're prepared for any situation.
Okay, thank you. I would like to see if we could maybe just expand the sentence that says funding to acquire apparatus to say something a little more detailed on what kinds of things we are asking for, along the lines of what Councilor Bassan was asking about. Because I will say that I have already gotten several people who have reached out to me asking, are they going to start having body cameras? Are they going to start, being APD like? And I don't know the answer, and I can't tell them for sure either way with the kind of a vague statement like that. So if you can get us that, I think that would be very helpful. And then Councilor Bassan.
Madam Chair, I was going to wait, I guess, to the end, but since we're kind of starting to talk about this is relevant to some of the upcoming things that Mr. Menicucci might be reviewing too. When I was reviewing this, and I don't think, obviously, that's not something I'm asking to include as the details in this bill, but for many of these things, is there a plan that's going to happen? I have questions about them. I'm not opposed, but for example, creating community command posts. I would like more information of what that means, where that would be, what it looks like, who is it for? I'm assuming I know the department that it would be going for, but I don't know. So I would love more information about that. When it comes to some of these other things on here, the expanding police helicopter, I'm all for the helicopters. I think they do a great job, but I also have questions about like how it's going to be with the state police helicopter. If we're talking about capital outlay for the city, why are we funding the state police helicopter and not APD? So I definitely have some more questions on the details of this. I'd love to talk about whether it's, at the next AGR in, an off-site meeting that we talk about later, but some of these are vague and I think they could be very beneficial, but I would love to know more, or if you could direct me where to go to find some of these details, I'd be happy to do that too, because maybe I just missed it.
Thank you, Councilor. who wants to
And
respond to that? Yeah, go ahead.
Council Chair, no, I just wanted to say, and when we talk about priorities for the staff that you said have already contacted you when it comes to ACS, you're right. One of the things we don't want to do is make them seem like APD or security. So we are looking at things that they will need, like Kevin was saying, certain apparatuses in their vehicles, but also certain things to keep them safe as well. So those are, I know it's not a direct answer or a direct list, but we are going through that because we do want to make sure that they keep the intent of ACS, which was to be an outreach and an help, as opposed to just another form of APD.
Thank you. I guess I'm curious. I missed the last one of these meetings. I was not available at that time, but I'm wondering if getting these details at a future IGR meeting would be the best option, or do you think that there is perhaps just some information that you can send to the counselors? Because I echo what Councilor Bassan is saying. I probably support most of these, but I just need some more information. And, I want to be able to be the biggest cheerleader for the city of Albuquerque during the legislative session, but I certainly couldn't talk about these in a manner that allowed me to, really push for funding. So what would be the preference for Mr. Whalen, like next meeting, send us information, or some combination of those two?
Council Chair, I think me and Kevin will get together and we'll get the information. And once we get all that information, we'll see what would be the best way to disseminate it. And then we can let you know whether it would be at the next meeting or if we talk to you guys individually or if we have a meeting. Wouldn't you agree, Kevin?
Yes, we can talk to you individually. We can send an email if we need to. We can bring it up at the next meeting, whatever. I'm confident we can get the details pretty quickly. So it shouldn't take us that long to get those details and be able to get back to you.
Okay, great. All right, we'll continue on then with Mr. Minicucci's review of the document in front of us.
Yes, ma'am. So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, basically that's it. We just continue down in alphabetical order. The ideas, the request from the mayor from the MCI program. And Madam Chair, did you have a question on field security cameras, or were you just mentioning it?
No, I love this one. We've been talking to APD about, these kinds of issues around Uptown, and I know other parts of the city have it as well. So I was just glad to see this one in there as a request from this, from the city as a whole.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. Then Jeff, if we continue to scroll down, thanks. Then I think the next one comes into community improvement projects. These are mostly projects provided that were community-wide, fairly definitively community-wide, and they were provided by the counselors. And of course, this was affordable housing, generally crossing. And I believe this one may have, this was affordable housing. As you see, we have this is going to bring up a question we have to address. So it was affordable housing, improve affordable housing services, and then the next one was funding for the Rio Grande Collaborative Affordable Housing Project, and then the City of Albuquerque Youth Shelter. So the fact then brings us to the mayor's citywide specific ones. And I think, and so we're organizing these is that the kind of the overall citywide ones we put first, and then we're gonna go mayor and then council district. But that brings up a question. So if it came up, I think from the council as a citywide affordable housing and the mayor as affordable housing, we didn't know, does the IGR want it twice? Or do they want one in one or the other? And that's where staff, we couldn't decide, wasn't for us to decide which one or the other. And that comes up in two other instances. One is that the mayor also has, if you can see down below there a little bit, Ceiba Loop Multi-Generational Center, phases 1 and 2. That also Councilor Lewis has. And then also the mayor has the West Side indoor sports complex near the end. And also Councilor Sanchez has that. So I think the question is, when I spoke to when that came in, and I spoke to the councilors, Lewis and Sanchez, I asked them if they'd like to just go with the mayor's, and they felt like they are very glad the mayor put it in. I should point that out. I think Councilor Sanchez reiterated that to me today, and is very thankful for the support. But he also felt like that it would be good for the area, for his citizens, their constituents to know that, and same Councilor Lewis, and for the legislators to know that they too consider it a priority. So they asked for it in both. So I think that's just the question we had to bring we have a staff we need to bring to the IGR to address.
Thank you, Mr. Micucci. So I'll just say the reason that I raised it was just to avoid what we've had happen in the past, which is duplication of requests. So that when you go to a legislator and say affordable housing, they don't find two numbers for the same thing. And so I understand that Councilor Sanchez and Councilor Lewis want it under their name as well, or their district as well, and that I don't have a problem with. But I am hoping that we could at least come up with some plan to avoid duplication in the actual submission within the capital outlay system with the state, so that it's just entered once and we all work from the same project number. Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Councilor Chair. Yeah, I think that if we just, I think it would be able, we could talk to Mark about it, but I believe we'd be able to put it all under one particular number. So it would have one LCS number. And then what we could do, we can say that it's not only a mayor priority, but it's also a councilor's priority. So it's citywide. So it shows how much of a priority it is to everybody. I would like to also ask though, if we're going to do this, when because the city council, we get money for affordable housing, the city council is going to have to appropriate that money. I just want everyone to be aware, like, if we want to appropriate it, what particular fund we'd like to send it to. So, you know, we're going through right now with a particular bill that talks about affordable housing from a grant. And we're building something out right now so that we can have criteria for the spending of that money. So just like us to be aware that I believe we will get some money, but to be cognizant of how it's appropriated and where we're going to appropriate it so that there's additional oversight.
All good points, Mr. Padilla. Thank you. Ms. O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there one meeting before this goes to council of the IGR?
I think that is to be determined. Mr. Minicucci, do you?
Correct, Madam Chair. So by ordinance, we're supposed to get it to council in early November. However, that's a new ordinance. The IGR just adopted up for itself last spring. So we're kind of testing it out. So it's like the IGR to decide if they want to stay at that timeline, or as they're learning, do they want to just, you know, kind of exceed it a little bit and go into mid-November?
Okay. Well, I have a comment, but it's a couple pages back. So I'll just wait till you go through the.
Okay. You mean that we haven't gotten to it yet, right?
No, we already discussed it. So it's like a couple pages back, and it was basically the item regarding the right to bear arms.
Oh, okay.
Let's go back. Let's go back. So that is something that, you know, I do not agree with, but that the council passed. And I have not heard anything about any type of a veto or anything. So it stands from the city council. That's my understanding.
Okay, I just what I was trying to get to is, you know, what exactly the I guess purpose is, if you will, if it's just a statement, because obviously there was pushback on some of the pushback on whether or not people had the right to carry arms in like parks and things like that. And there were folks who felt that shouldn't even happen. So I was just wondering exactly what that meant.
We have Councilor Bassan.
Madam Chair, so I think that this one is based off of the bill that we passed on council a couple of meetings ago, affirming support for upholding the Constitution and whatnot. But what you're talking about, Ms. O'Malley, I think is the mayor's administrative instruction or whatever term it is.
Right.
That says that things people cannot carry firearms into parks or school zones and whatnot. I personally can see why there's a disagreement there, but the judge I've recently asked questions of Mr. Morrow in our office to clarify, and he indicated to me that the mayor's order stands and the judge has not included that in any of the communications and decisions regarding the governor's order. So Mr. Padilla might be able to clarify a little further. I know he was involved in some of those communications, but on this piece of legislation we're looking at now, I believe that it is strictly talking about the council's vote to pass the resolution, asking and telling the governor that we're going to uphold the Constitution and that we support it.
So it's more of a statement right now.
It's a statement, but it's a statement that the council passed through resolution, that we
Right.
will stand by that, and that we
Yeah.
encourage a legislative priority to not do anything that would go against that.
Okay, well, I mean, since you passed it, it's on there. I mean, then I guess there's not much else to say about it. Okay, thank you.
I share your concerns. I have a strong concern about it being included under community improvement, because I don't feel that guns in the community really improve the community, but that's a conversation that, happened at council and they did pass that, so.
Thank you.
I can't see who's raising their hand. Is that
Mayor's
Kevin?
conference room.
Okay, go ahead.
So I understand that that was passed. And is there, we're making a statement here. This is about legislative asks. We want changes we want the legislature to act and create laws or create funds or provide funding for, I guess, more along the lines of Debbie's questioning, Commissioner O'Malley's questioning. I'm going to call her commissioner. You guys called her counselor. Does it need to be sent to the governor in this manner, or was there another way to send it to the governor? Once it's
It
passed?
has been, I believe it has been sent to the governor as a standalone, but the policy is that these kinds of memorials and resolutions and things that the council passes that have legislative intent are also included in this legislation. But Councilor Bassan knows more about that than me, so I'll stop talking.
No, Madam Chair, you're doing fine. Thank you. So I think that really this is almost, and maybe what's kind of different about this is that instead of urging the governor to do something in the legislative session, this is urging the governor to make sure not to do something, not to pass any kind of legislative bills that would go against the right to bear arms and the Constitution. So it's sort of the opposite, but it still is talking about legislative priorities. And as stated on that line where it says to urge the governor to take no action that violates constitutional rights. So in and of itself, it is still talking about legislative priorities. It's just sort of reversing what is traditional. Instead of saying we want you to create legislation, we're saying don't create legislation that would do this.
Okay, so and similar, I guess, to the memorial that's right above it, where we're either asking for her not to or asking for them to. So I get it. I just felt I needed to continue some line of questioning.
All right, thank
So
you.
thank you.
Yeah. All points that have passed my head on this one, but it was the will of the council. So, okay, Ms. O'Malley, did you have more on that, or can we go back down to where we were with the capital outlay funding?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any more comments on
Okay.
that.
Thank you. All right, so we're back and we were over on page 6 and we are trying to come up with a plan to avoid duplication. I know I say this every single year. It is painful to have the same thing in the system twice. And so I appreciated Mr. Padilla's points about a plan. I think that they would require that the administration and the city council agree to that plan so that we don't both put it in. But I'll go to Councilor Bassan to see if we can come up with an idea here that is somehow different than the last 2 years, Councilor Bassan.
Madam Chair, I fear that I am going to let you down on that because I'm going to just repeat myself for about the 90th time. And I don't know how to say it differently, but I don't see why we have to duplicate the same thing on this bill, whether if it's a citywide priority. I believe, and I think that we've taken a vote on this about it, and we've discussed it multiple times on IGR in council with the administration. repeatedly for the last couple of years. If it's going to fall under citywide improvements, city priorities, then 10 people approve of it, 9 counselors and 1 mayor. They all say yes to whatever falls under that category. If it's a mayoral priority, it's because the mayor wants it, whether or not it's a citywide priority. But if it's citywide priority, to me is like the top, the gold standard. What we should all strive for is that we all have citywide priorities. So if the mayor and all the councilors have a citywide priority, that trumps everything. And then if there's something else that a councilor doesn't agree with, and the mayor really wants it in, then that's now a mayoral priority. And then if the mayor and 8 other councilors don't agree with one councilor, that's a council-specific district priority. And so to me, it's like this tier of city priorities, mayoral priorities, individual councilor priorities, and there shouldn't be the same priority in all 3 of those categories if everyone agrees. I don't know how we can make it better. I could still try to beat my head on the wall about it, but I feel like that's where I'm at. I don't see the reason to say affordable housing for citywide priorities and the mayor and each of the councilors, because to me, that makes it a citywide priority. But the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center, for example, is probably going to be a councilor district priority, and that's where that should fall. Unless you want to make it a citywide priority, and then we need all 10 people to say yes.
I could not agree more. I'm going to go to Mr. Motzko, and then we will come back to Mr. Minicucci.
Hi, thanks, Madam Chair. So in the last year, there's been some staff changes. Mainly, I've moved to council services. So Sean Maiden and I out of CIP will continue to work on this. We had a spreadsheet last year that worked a little bit better than 2 years ago, where we had all of the problems. And I would like to continue working with Sean to be able to eliminate all duplicate requests this year. That's our goal. And I will work very closely with him and the administration to make sure that happens.
Thank you. So I hate to just continually focus on this, but I really think it's worth the conversation here. We have affordable housing under citywide, and we have affordable housing under the mayor's requests. Do we have agreement that could just be moved, consolidated into one thing in this bill that is under community-wide or citywide projects? And I see the mayor's conference room.
Yes, thank you, Chair Fuelcorn. I think we can easily move affordable housing clearly into citywide priorities. I speak for administration. We know it's a priority. I think it's a priority for council. So if you think everyone in council is on board with it, we are fine with that on the administrative side.
Okay.
West Side Sports Complex, I don't know where council weighs in on that. But your call.
Yeah, so let's do the one that is very clear. Affordable housing, we're going to delete that section in the mayoral section of the bill. We're going to move it to the citywide section of the bill. And I don't think we've had any disagreement on that. And we're going to ask Mr. Motzko to work with the administration to determine who specifically should put that request into the system so that it's only entered once. All right. So that's 1 of 3 settled, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I see the mayor's conference room again.
Sorry, I tried to lower my hand.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So then we now have 2 that are a little different. They are not citywide priorities, but they are mayoral priorities and they are a city councilor's priorities. It is my understanding that we've spoken to, I haven't, Mr. Minicucci has spoken to those city councilors. They very much want them to remain in their district priority list in this bill. I do think that for them, there is some value in having the mayor prioritizing that as well. So what I would suggest is that we leave them in both places to give Councilor Lewis and Councilor Sanchez what they asked for, but that we ask Mr. Motzko to work directly with the administration on these 2 to make sure that they're only entered into the system once. Yes, Councilor Bassan.
Madam Chair, I do not disagree with you. I just would say I would recommend and hope that staff would double check and circle back with Councilor Grout about Tejeros Biozone, because perhaps she would want to make sure that that's listed on hers as a district specific in addition to a mayoral priority.
Good catch. I know that was a last minute addition, so I hadn't thought of that. And it is on hers, right? So there's 3 of those. So let me just make sure that Mr. Motzko and the administration agree that we'll leave them doubly in the bill, but for both the Cibola Loop, the Tijeras Biozone, and the West Side Indoor Sports Complex, we will ensure that they're either entered by the councilor's staff person or the mayor's staff person, but not both. Does that work for everybody? Okay, I think I see thumbs up. I see heads shaking. Okay, back to you, Mr. Minicucci. Thank you.
So Madam Chair, I think that addresses the issues in the mayor's. The other mayor, again, you can see the list of ones you can read what the other projects that the mayor has asked specifically for the mayor. And then, of course, the scroll down will correct, we'll work to correct that with the draft that goes to council if one does. And then again, we now begin the City Council District 1. And Madam Chair, we did make the change you requested to his first name on that one there. So, and this basically starts it by district. Now, again, what we told the councilors is we said, I think I kind of polled the councilors on the IGR, and they kind of agreed to 3 to 5, is if I understand correctly. And they said, so some councilors gave us 2, some gave us 5. And so this one starts with City Councilor Sanchez, just going by district. And I do on that one there. And then we just kind of go on down with it. Some of these, they were what came from the councilor, and some of them were from the administration to the councilor, and the councilor said, yeah, let me put that as a priority. So it's kind of a mix of where they came from. 12th Street and Sawmills, as you can see, Councilor District, Councilor Benton only has 2 because he did have the Rio Grande one on there, but we did, I think, move that one out because it got, it was broad enough citywide. So I'll have to check with councilor, but I think he'd be.
I've already spoken to Councilor Benton, and this is his preference as well, as moving it to a citywide priority because it is the housing collaborative, and we've had multiple conversations around that. So that's been approved and is ready to roll.
Okay. And then we go to Council District 3, and that one again, they have their priorities. The last one, though, covers about 4 council districts. So I don't know if that's one the committee would like to move up to community improvements on that one there. So that encompasses Council District 1, 2, 3, 6, and 9. So that almost does the majority of the council.
I believe that bill passed unanimously the other night. So is Councilor Pena on? Would that be something she want to move? I can't see everybody, sorry.
I don't believe so, Madam Chair. We texted her, so.
Okay. I don't have a preference. I think it's, helpful to have it in the citywide priority list, but let's perhaps talk to the sponsor to make sure that that's what she prefers.
Okay. And then that's just basically as it goes through like that. So we go to District 4. And that again, Councilor Bassan, hopefully we have that correct for you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Minicucci, I think that we emailed you, but if we can make sure that nothing ever reads North Domingo Baca Pool, it's formally now the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center.
Right.
So that way all of our state grants and everything matches. So North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center would be great, please.
We'll do that.
Good catch.
Do that. And then, oops, excuse me. Oh, Jeff, I think you have something covering it. There you go. Vista Norte, Parkville. City Council District 5. Again, that's just the 2 projects councilor has. City Council District 6. And then Council District 7. I believe Councilor, or Madam Chair, I think we made a few corrections, hopefully that you'd requested.
Yes, and I'll just tell everybody again, I did remove one of mine, which is gonna be funded, we're gonna put in the request, but it's gonna go through the county. And so in its place, I added the Girard Street, streetscaping improvements. If anybody has any questions about that, let me know.
667 and District 8, I don't know, I can remember if they even had anything. Yeah, I don't believe District 8 had any, they had one this year. District 7, excuse me, I apologize, that continues. The list, that's the 5 for District 7. Again, everything's listed by alphabetical order. Northeast Heights Police Substation is all just District 8. And then, as you pointed out, District 9 does have Terrace Royal Open Space Biological Zone. We'll check with Councilor Grout if she wants to move that to just go with the one up in the mayor's one. But I think that pretty much concludes the priorities list.
Councilor Bassan.
Madam Chair, I do have a question about semantics given the election with everything, because noticing on here, it says, you know, the name of the counselor, and when this does formally go up to Santa Fe, there's going to be for sure some name changes. So how does that play out? Or, you know, and I don't even need the answer now. I just am hoping that somebody is aware of it and is already planning for that, because I know that there are some counselors that, even though it's their priority, does that still stick around, or does it need to change, or do names just need to be omitted? And how does that formally transpire when it comes to down to the semantics?
So, Madam Chair, that's a good question to bring up. So the names being in there is a new addition that the IGR asked for last year. So it's up to the IGR. If you feel like this year would be better because of the changes, to take them out. The other thing we could do is that when it passes, we could put in the resolution that a provision that where the resolution would authorize us as staff to change the names once new counselors are put in. I mean, again, that might cause some confusion among legislators if they get one before. But again, that's the council, IGR's prerogative if they want to keep them in or not.
Madam Chair, I'm open to options, but I certainly would hate to just automatically put in an elected counselor's name without knowing if that was their priority or not. So I think that at the very least, it needs to just maybe be omitted, or, you know, I don't know what the right answer is, but I don't think that, you know, there should be a counselor that exists now that won't be here next year and then just roll in the new person, the new counselor's name without checking with them first.
Good point, Ms. O'Malley.
Yeah, since the session doesn't even start, I mean, I think that, you know, some previous counselor's priority may not be the new counselor's priority. How you deal with that, I don't know, because the book will already be published and it'll be too late probably to submit new projects, but, you know, that could certainly happen.
Yeah, and you know, when you're new, you do kind of inherit the person before you. I guess I hadn't thought of this, but I'm kind of leaning towards just removing the names and just leaving the district numbers in this legislation, unless somebody has other thoughts.
I'm fine with that, Madam Chair. I just also, you know, it's either that, or I think that at the last minute or something, it needs to be former counselor or something added in there, if that's the case, because I just don't think it would be appropriate. And I think it could add to the confusion. So simplistically, it seems like, you know, just districts and no names might be the easiest, safest, most PC way to go. And
Madam Chair, if I may add, the only reason I think I'm trying to remember why the IGR put it in was I think there was something, and it may not be applicable this year because there's new counselors. Some legislators may have found it easier to identify. I think somebody said if they have the name there because they know they identify a district by a counselor, not by its number. So that was getting a little confusing. If they saw the counselor's name, they knew what the geography was. But
Right.
beyond, but particularly this year, if we have new counselors, maybe that's not the case. So that was the only reason I believe the IGR put it in.
And I truly, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilor Bassan.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Madam Chair. I also am thinking you could even put as of 12/31/23, you know, and just have a little asterisk somewhere on there or something. I just throwing out ideas.
Right. And I'll just say, you know, I think that the geography lesson is up to each counselor to meet with their legislators and have those conversations. And so, you know, if their only interaction with counselors is this document, I think we're in trouble. So I would say that that's less important to me, but Mr. Padilla.
Madam Chair, maybe we can include a map of the council districts inside the book, and then people can flip through it. You'll have the numbers, and then right after that, there's a map, and then they can reference the map and then be able to understand, see which district it is.
That seems like a really good middle ground. No names, council map. Any opposition concerns? All right, we're doing it. Thank you for catching that, Councilor Bassan. I really hadn't thought through the names. Okay, so is there anything else on these attachments? Anything that folks want to see change? I do have the one potential change if Councilor Pena wants to move hers to a citywide priority. And I assume that there's no opposition to that either way. I'm not hearing any. So we'll talk to her. Mr. Minicucci will find out for her exactly what she wants on that. Other than that, are there any changes, questions, or concerns? Councilor Bassan.
Madam Chair, I just do have one more for the North Domingo Baca Aquatic Center. Can we remove the words final phase? I sure hope it will be, but I don't want to put myself in a pinch just in case.
That seems doable. Do you have the same concern over the Vista del Norte, or is that a different
No,
project?
that absolutely will be the final phase. Like that's,
okay.
I need just pennies. I need like $300,000.
Madam Chair, also, Mr. Mosco just texted me that we need to add in a few more languages on describing the West Side Indoor Complex. I need to add in furnish and equip on that one.
Furnish and equip. Okay. What does it say now when you get back there?
I think it's plan, design, and construct. Mr. Hertz, can you bring it back up?
It says acquire land, plan, design, construct, equip, and otherwise improve
Okay.
an indoor recreation complex adjacent to the Albuquerque Public Schools Nucinda Stadium.
So maybe I just need to add in furnish then. We just need to add in furnish.
But now that might be different than how it's worded in Councilor Sanchez's. Nope, they're the same language and under both. We should verify that it's the same language, like Councilor Grout's biodome is slightly worded different than the mayor's biodome.
Okay.
So we should make sure that those are combined and the same wording wise.
Okay.
What did I do there? I think I messed that up. Oops.
So there
And then I'm sorry, see a hand in the mayor's conference room.
Yes, Councilor Fiebelkorn, I just wanted to, we're raising a question with that language because I think we all know when we go to the legislature, the broader the language, the better off we are. If something becomes unbuildable in a location that we've locked in through legislation, we run into trouble acquiring that money and spending that money. So we're pointing out that we want to be as broad as we can with that language with respect to the West Side Indoor Sports Complex. So thank you for that.
So are you thinking that the adjacent to the APS Nucinda Stadium is a problem?
That locks us into absolutely that space, right? We can't go east, we can't go west, we can't go north or south of there if there's a challenge with buildability or engineering on that site. So we've learned over the years, and I think Mark Motzko can probably attest to this, we've learned over the years, we want to be as broad as we can in that language so that the money is very flexible.
So, Madam Chair, I think we just had a meeting this morning with Councilor, I'm sorry, go ahead. I should ask for your permission to speak.
No, go ahead, Mr. Minicucci.
With Councilor Sanchez and with the incoming Chief Administrative Officer, where I think there is that discussion. I think he is wanting to keep the project at that location. I think actually Mr. Thursu is thinking of a site to the south, which is not feasible to build. It's not good. This would be a site to the east of the stadium. At the same time, I think there's still some kind of, I think might be a desire. I think the new CAO is going to check on to move the site maybe closer to St. Joseph's, which is not where the councilor would like to go. So I think that's still up in the air. And I think the councilor might understand it with the mayor not wanting to be as narrow, but I think he might want to be as narrow because I think he is along with a number of legislators, are kind of really focusing on that site close to Lucinda. So I mean, that's still a debate. I don't know if the IGR wants to get in how they want to handle that one.
Okay. So can we have maybe Mr. Motzko, Mr. Minicucci, and someone from the administration just put their heads together on those three that are appearing in different places? The Cibola Loop, the T. Harris Education Center, and the West Side Complex, and see if there can be a coming together on language for those three, because they do need to be the same in the mayors and in the councilors, if in fact we are going to go with the plan that we outlined, which is only entering them into the system once. So can we have some subset of folks talk with the councilor, talk with the administration, and just verify that those three can be worded the same? And if not, then we'll come back and have a conversation at that point.
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. So we might have a few more changes then. Let's see how those small group meetings go. So given that, Mr. Minicucci, what's the plan moving forward on this?
We have two things. I've looked at the thing, but I think our next IGR meeting should be the week of the 6th, if I have it correct. It's November, it's Wednesday the 1st of the intergovernmental. So we'll have one next week. We should have, I believe it's next week, yes. We'll have one next Wednesday at our standard time of 3 p.m. That's throughout the year. Then the next council meeting for action, and I guess I'm having is should be was it Monday the 13th? I have to look here and look at my
November 8th.
November 8th is the next council meeting. So yes, we could have it come back next week with our corrections, and then we would have to go the next day. It's the 6th. So let me double check that. I saw if I have it right here. I apologize. I may not. We have intergovernmental relations the 1st, and so yes, then we would have a week to get it ready and go in for either holdover or immediate action on the 8th.
Okay. I like that timeline. I would like to get this done in early November, which gives us a little time. Mr. Padilla.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if it is passed on the 1st, we can get it introduced. We have it to the staff by the 3rd for introduction on the 8th, and then you could have final action on the 20th. Or would you rather, then you could do a holdover rather than immediate action to allow counselors to be able to review it and see if they want any types of changes or anything like that?
I'm thinking holdover. Councilor Bassan, what do you think?
I mean, these are things that have been circulating through all of the counselors for a while now. So to me, it shouldn't be something that takes a very in-depth view of. And I think that we do need to try to get it done as soon as possible. So, you know, I'm fine with following the standard process, but if we can do it and the council will it, let's try for immediate action.
I mean, that would be my preference. I just don't want to, if the two of us think it's okay, and then, you know, they can vote and say no. But
Right.
Let's try for immediate action on the 8th, which gives us a little more time to start, you know, really getting this out to legislators and all of those things. So,
And then, Madam Chair, we would also be sticking as close to the new ordinance that we passed as possible. And worst case scenario, we go to the 20th, and I don't think it's the 20th, and it's not the end of the world, but I think it'd be prudent for us to try.
that's the plan then. We're going to try for immediate action on the 8th, which means that next week we have to have this finalized, every, you know, I dotted, every T crossed. So we have some small group meetings happening in between with 3 different counselors to iron out some language. And then the 4th counselor to see if we can put one of hers into the citywide. So I'm going to say, you know, before the 1st, which is our next IGR meeting, all changes should be to Tom Minicucci by like Monday. And so if, you know, please make sure there's a thorough review from all of the people on this call and anyone else that needs to look at it with amendments, changes, questions to Mr. Minicucci by Monday. Okay. Anything else on this, Mr. Minicucci?
Not on the priorities list, but on the resolution. So the resolution, the only change to it is that I think discussions we are going to go with after discussion between Councilor Bibelcorn and Councilor Pena, go with the standard process for when you have a mandated bill by ordinance. It's kind of standard tradition that then, such as with the budget committee, that the chair of the committee is lead on it. And then we just kind of follow the standard tradition they use in Congress, and then by seniority. So we just want to check that out, just to let you know how that goes on that one there. Kind of just like we do the budget bill, stuff like that. So that's just kind of following the tradition and culture of when you have mandated bills that are by ordinance or charter.
Okay. Any other changes, comments to the resolution? Okay. I don't have any other items on the agenda. Was there anything else that folks wanted to talk about this week? Seeing no hands. All right. We will meet 3 p.m. next
Madam Chair.
Wednesday. Oh, yes, Councilor Bassan.
Sorry, I didn't put my hand up, but I do see our lobbyists here. Is there anything in addition that they need to present? I had seen several of them pop on, so I didn't know if there was anything important that they wanted to share, or if they're just here to watch all of this fun unfold.
Is there anybody? I can't see everybody. Oh, I do see Mr. O'Donnell.
And I think Mr. Thompson is on, but with his, and then I did see Mr. Jaramillo, but I don't think he's here anymore.
Okay. If anybody has updates that they want to share, please let us know.
I could add, Madam Chairman.
Sure.
This is not related to capital outlay or earmarks, but we just saw that the congressman from Minnesota who was put forward to be speaker has not gotten the votes and is withdrawn. So we continue the drama.
Thank you for that non-update that we are now becoming accustomed to.
Very welcome.
All right. Not seeing anything else. I'm going to say we'll see you next Wednesday at 3 p.m. next Wednesday. Edits to Tom by Monday. Thanks for everybody's time. We'll see you soon. Adjourned.